Today we're going to take a look how the DJI Pocket 2 compares to the Sony a6400 on the Ronin SC. These are both fantastic little cameras that will give you great results. It's going to be an epic battle. But if you stick around to the end, you may get a happy ending. What are you laughing about? I don't get it. What's so funny? Happy ending? What's wrong with that? So I wanted to do this video a little while ago. I wanted to take the Osmo Pocket and compare it to the Sony a6400. But I didn't think it was a fair fight. I mean, size-wise, it's definitely not a fair fight. But the Osmo Pocket, while it is a fantastic little camera, it just couldn't compete spec-wise with the Sony a6400. Now, DJI released the Pocket 2, which has a much bigger sensor, a different lens, a bunch of other things you can do that the Osmo Pocket couldn't. So I think DJI really stepped up their game. So now I think these two cameras, it's a fair fight, at least closer to a fair fight. Now first let's take a look at the Pocket 2. Of course, the Osmo Pocket was fantastic when it came out. It was really different from most cameras, and that's why I really love that camera. I took it as a camera to record my family's memories when we went to Disney for our first family trip, and I quickly fell in love with the camera. I guess I fell in love with Disney as well, but I fell in love with the camera. So tiny and gave you great results. I've been looking for a camera to give you smooth, almost gimbal footage, but something that wasn't big. I didn't want to carry a gimbal. You can't carry a gimbal around Disney. This was perfect, and the Osmo Pocket was awesome for that. You literally fit it in your pocket, take it out, get some great shots. You can do photos, panos, time lapses, motion lapses, you name it, it could do it, and I loved it. However, the Osmo Pocket was a little bit limited. The sensor wasn't very big. There's some other things that you couldn't really do well. The audio wasn't great. However, for the most part, I was happy with it, and I was happy with the quality, shooting 4K 60 frames, which is great. Normally I shoot 4K 24 frames, and it does a great job with that. Now, like I said, I wish the sensor was bigger on the Osmo Pocket, and I wish the audio was better. Well, take a look at the Pocket 2. That's exactly the two main points I think they fixed on this camera. It's a little bit bigger sensor. I mean, you can only fit such a big sensor in a tiny little camera like this, but they were able to increase the sensor size, which is great. That's something I really wanted, and a lot of people that were fans of the Osmo Pocket, that was the big thing that they wanted. So that's great. But they also changed the lens on it. It's a little bit of a wider lens. So if you want to vlog with it, there you go. It's a little bit wider. The lens is also better where it lets in more light. I believe it's f1.8 now. So that's great. So it allows you to have even more light into your sensor to get some different shots that you want. Of course, you still need your ND filters with this bad boy. But all your old accessories, most of your old accessories, will work with the Pocket 2. That's great. Okay, so moving on to the big boy. Well, in this case, compared to the Pocket 2, the big boy, it's really not very big, and that's why I really like the Sony a6400. Now, I bought this maybe about a year ago, and I really enjoyed this camera. I came over from Canon, and I loved Canon cameras. They were great. I loved the menu. I loved the results, the skin tones, everything. So I wasn't sure what to expect, and right away I didn't really like the menu system with Sony, but I got used to it. I have used Sony cameras in the past. At work we use the FS7s and the FS5s. Very similar menu systems, not similar cameras. Those are much bigger, and that's one of the reasons I like this camera, because it's smaller and it's more compact, easy to use, a bunch of other things. Anyway, so this camera here I've had for maybe about a year, maybe a year and a half, something like that. I quickly fell in love with this camera. It's so light, so easy to use. The quality is very good. It shoots 4K 30 frames. Now, I wish it shot 4K 60 frames, like another camera I know, but it doesn't, and that's okay. The 4K quality on the Sony a6400 is really good. The quality is really there, and I really like using it. Now, you can also use it to take photos, which is great. You can take time lapses and other things when you hook it up to the Ronin SC. Of course, you're going to get nice smooth footage. You can shoot motion lapses and time lapses with that as well. Now, I should say the Ronin SC, I'm not here to talk about that too much, but it's a pretty darn good product. I really enjoy it. I know there's an upgrade now. but this has done a very good job for me, so that's why I keep it. I mean, you can put the Sony a6400 on any gimbal really, and you're going to get pretty good results. So I like this Sony a6400 for the quality and how easy it is to use, but I also like it for the small form factor. Okay, so let's take a look at some B-roll that I shot using both of these cameras. For the most part, I'm pretty happy with the B-roll examples from both of these cameras. I've used this in professional broadcasts and just my own home videos and my own YouTube videos, and I'm very happy with the results of both of these cameras. Of course, they're both different cameras, but the whole idea here is that it's going to give you a good image and it's going to give you nice, stable footage using a gimbal. Now, I will say a couple things. If I'm working on a project, a client is paying me, I will probably use a Sony a6400 with the gimbal. Of course, it's going to give you a little bit better image, and it's also a little bit more sturdy if you're worried about the Osmo Pocket breaking down or anything. Although it hasn't broken down on me. So I have to say, for the most part, I'm really happy with the results of the B-roll from either one of these cameras. I was really happy with it. Now, I've used B-roll on either one of these cameras on professional broadcasts or my own YouTube videos or other videos for clients, and they probably can't really tell the difference. I'm really happy with both cameras. Now, if I was shooting something more professional and something that I was working on for a client, I would probably take the Sony a6400 on the gimbal. Not because I'm not happy with the Pocket 2, I am very happy with the results there, but there's a couple things to think about here. The image quality is a little bit better on the Sony a6400. Look, it's a bigger camera, bigger sensor, you're going to get those things. You can also monitor your audio much more easily on this camera than you can the Pocket 2, although the Pocket 2 audio has come a long way. Now, if I'm shooting something with this and doing interviews or something, I have a lot more control on this. I have a bigger screen to monitor my output. Plus, again, I can control my audio, hook up a wireless mic or whatever I need to do to get the audio. Of course, you can do that with this, but it's so much easier with this camera. Plus, this just looks a little bit more professional. Of course, if I was doing a really big production, I would get a different camera, Sony FS5, the FS7 or something like that. Because sometimes clients really want to see a bigger camera on set. It just makes them feel better, about the money they're paying. But for me, the quality on this camera is pretty darn good, and I say it competes pretty close to the Sony FS5. The sensor's not as big. Some of the other things aren't as good as the Sony FS5, but for the money and the size, the Sony a6400 does a fantastic job. Now, that doesn't mean that the Pocket 2 does a bad job. It does a very good job. The B-roll that you can see, I was very happy with it. The quality looks pretty good. The gimbal is actually pretty smooth, and that's pretty amazing on such a small little camera. I absolutely love using this thing. If I had to compare which camera I want to take out and use just for fun, it easily is the Pocket 2. So much fun to use and so easy. I love a camera where you just whip it out, take some video, and you're happy. Right away, you're good to go. Now, the setup for this bad boy, a lot longer. Of course, you got to set up the gimbal itself. You got to balance it. You got to set up your other stuff on it, where the Pocket 2, turn it on, which turns on very quickly, like 2-3 seconds, you're ready to go, press record, good, you're happy. That's great. I love that. And like I said, the audio has improved in this, so that makes a big deal. So if I had to choose of a camera when I'm just going out to shoot for my own stuff, my family or something like that, hands down, easily the Pocket 2. Okay, so now let's talk about price. The Pocket 2 is going to be the much more affordable camera. I believe it's around $399 US, which is 1,200 Canadian. Just joking. Us Canadians pay a lot more. Anyways, it's not that expensive. Around the $500 mark, I believe, here in Canada. While the Sony a6400, just for the camera itself, you're looking anywhere between $1,100 and $1,500, depending on the lens you get. Now, the Ronin SC, I got this on sale, and of course there's the new one out now, which you might want to pick up instead, but this is still a fantastic gimbal. But the gimbal itself, I believe, cost maybe around $600-700 when I purchased it at the time. So you put those together, you're going past $2,000 compared to $500 on the Pocket 2. So when it comes to price-wise, you can't beat the Pocket 2. You won't find a better camera with a tiny little gimbal and quality like this than the Pocket 2. Hands down, this is the better price-wise. Now, one major factor that people really need to consider if they're considering either one of these cameras is your lazy ability. Is that a word, lazy ability? It's how lazy you are. If you're lazy, you're gonna go for the Pocket 2 every time. However, some days if you're not feeling as lazy, you might want to set up the Sony a6400 on the Ronin SC because it does give you great results. And you know what? It is a lot of fun to use. I know I love using the Pocket 2, but it's still a lot of fun to use this camera. Some of the results you get and how creative you can get with this camera are amazing. Right now I have the Sigma 16mm on this. I also have the Sigma 30. This is a great lens for shooting with the Sony a6400, period. But also you put that on a gimbal, it's awesome. It really gives you some good results. It's just wide enough to give you a really cool look. And I really like the Sigma cameras, but when you pair those onto a Ronin SC or any other gimbal, you're gonna get some great results. So let me get back to my point. If you're lazy, go for the Pocket 2. If you're not lazy, you can go for the Sony a6400. And that's not a slight. I'm not saying people that use the Pocket 2 are lazy. Again, I love using it. And because you get on location and you're ready to go, pop it out, you shoot, you're happy right away. If it's going to take you 5-10 minutes to get this going, it's going to be one of those things that's just going to slow you down enough that I bet you're going to choose the Pocket 2 over the Sony a6400. Now I will tell you, after using the Sony a6400 on the Ronin SC, I've got the setup time down to maybe 2 minutes. You use the app, it balances it for you. It does a really good job of telling you exactly how the motor should work, and that's great. 2-3 minutes, I'm good to go. I use a little plate on the back to make it easier for mounting, so it doesn't take me a long time to mount this camera, but again, not as fast as the Pocket 2. Now earlier I mentioned how this is an epic battle between two cameras going battle head to head, but I also mentioned that it could be a love story in the end. Well, here's the love story part. I have found that using these two cameras together work really, really well. The quality of both cameras are pretty good. The stability of the cameras, fantastic. The ease of use of these cameras, great. So here's a hiking video that I did recently where I paired these two cameras together. Now, most of my shots were probably used on the Sony a6400, but they were used on a tripod. But I wanted to have some movement in my shot, but I didn't want to do a big setup because I was out in the woods hiking. So I brought the Pocket 2 with me, and I used it handheld for the most part, sometimes on a little extension tripod, which works really, really well on the Pocket 2. And I think the results are really, really good. When you pair these two together, work together with these two cameras, the results are fantastic. And it doesn't cost me a lot of money. I have an A camera and a B camera, and I'm not worried about spending way too much money on a B camera and upgrading my A camera. I think they work really, really well together. Now, a couple times where I wanted to have some more behind the scenes kind of footage on this hiking trip, I was walking and talking with the Pocket 2. But as you can see, I'm also recording with the Sony a6400. And I kind of like that look, being able to cut back and forth between the footage. And if you look at the footage, I think it looks pretty decent. They cut well together, I think. Of course, the sensor is bigger than this, so it's probably going to give you a little bit better quality. But it wasn't that much of a difference between this. If you bang your white balance and get your aperture and your ISO, everything just working perfectly, using ND filters for this with that bright day and that bright sunny snow, I think your footage will look fantastic. So it goes to show you, we don't need to pit these cameras against each other. Sometimes certain cameras work really, really well together, and I'm pretty happy with the way these two work together. See, it's a love story. So what about you at home? Do you have one of these cameras, or do you have both of these cameras and you use them together to make videos, or do you prefer one camera or the other? I think for myself, I love having both of these cameras. They also pack up very small into one backpack so I can carry all my gear. And I absolutely love that, because I mentioned I was a little bit lazy earlier, just a little bit lazy. So if you have any questions about either one of these cameras, please let me know in the comment section. I love talking about cameras, and I love talking specifically about these cameras right here. So thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing if you liked what you saw. If not, check out my channel. Maybe there's something that you enjoy there as well. Anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.